Welcome back to the Jungle Fever podcast. I'm Ethan Sarge. Aiden Crowley is here. Episode 26. We unfortunately had to miss last week. A lot of things were going on. Mr. Crowley happened to come down to A-Town for a little bit of homecoming festivities, and with all the chaos, there was no real time to break down what was a great Bengals win. They got the win over the Steelers, 33 to 31, and well, the initial plan was, after what was expected to be a victory over the Jets, we come back on and kind of talk about how well maybe the season is back on. Maybe there is some fresh hope for the postseason. Maybe they have outside chance. It looked the Steelers lost again yesterday. The Browns are the Browns. So, you have an outside shot. Well, that came crashing down at about 3:45 p.m. and beyond yesterday afternoon as the Bengals crashed to what feels like a cataclysmic loss to the New York Jets, the previously winless New York Jets, 39-38, the final score for Paycor Stadium. I know we have plenty of thoughts about this game and how it relates to the franchise and the season as a whole. We're going to get to that. But let's just start off with what we saw. And I'll start by saying that you probably could have put Tom Brady back there at quarterback. And I'm not sure if the Bengals win this game. Joe Flacco didn't play that bad, in my opinion. Once again, I thought he did his job. Thought the offense as a whole played pretty well. I was tabulating a list of things I wanted to talk about as this game went on, and I'll talk quickly about. I thought the offensive line played really well. I thought the offensive line had one of the best games I've seen it have in a long time. The run game was there. Both Samaje Perine and Chase Brown had themselves some great moments. Um, Three touchdowns combined from those two guys. You even got a Joe Flacco rushing touchdown to add on top of that. Jamar Chase continues to be great, 11 catches for 94 yards. The Bengals found the tight ends a couple of times. Noah Fant had a solid game. I don't really have very many complaints about the offense. My sole complaint I'll get to is about the wide receiver three position. We'll talk about that later. But the offense, I don't really have very many complaints about right now because that's not where the problems on this team lie. Um, let's get into the fun part. You know what? I know Aiden's stewing. I'm just going to let him go here. Defense, ready, break. Go
Uh,
ahead.
where do I even start? Um, this is a game like if I would have just told you on the surface that the Bengals are going to get up 10-0 to start the game, the Bengals are going to score 38 points against the Jets. The Bengals are going to go into the fourth quarter leading by 15. You would have said, "Okay, cool. We walk out with a victory." 31-16 entering the fourth quarter. And then what happens? The Bengals defense I mean, they were getting gashed all game, but in the fourth quarter specifically, they got walked down. The Jets don't respect the Bengals defense so much to the point to where in the fourth quarter in a two possession ball game, the Jets were content with running the football consistently. And why not? There's one player on this Jets offense that can do damage to you without Garrett Wilson in the lineup, and that's Breece Hall. And what does Breece Hall go out to do? 18 carries, 133 yards, 7.5 a carry, and two touchdowns. That's ridiculous. They were getting gashed. The Jets averaged 7 yards a carry. Justin Fields looked like a world beater, 21 of 32 for 244 yards and a touchdown. Breece Hall threw a touchdown because why not? And coming into the game, the Jets' offensive line was out allowing a 41.7% pass rush win rate to opposing defenses. Ethan, do you want to guess how many pressures the Bengals defensive line got on this Jets team? It's subtracted by one. One. They got a single pressure on Justin Fields all game. It
I
is
think
inexcusable.
the
It is
stat that I
laughable.
saw, the stat that I saw was two pass rush wins total for the entirety of every single Bengals defensive line player. I think so every single rep, which is about 150, I think it was about 158 reps, there were two wins by the Bengals
It's a
defense. By the way,
joke.
the interior. So look, the Jets have two very good tackles. Armand Membo, their rookie first round pick last year or this past year, and Olu Fashuanu, who was their first round pick a couple years ago. I think the tackles are the strength of that offense. The interior is atrocious. They're 31st in the NFL in pressures allowed. Again, Aiden just said how the Bengals definitely utilize that weakness, right?
It's a
Um,
joke. It's a joke. You thought
yeah.
coming in. You thought coming into the game that this was going to be a game that, hey, Shamar could get his first career sack. Maybe Miles Murphy could get right and get a sack and a half. You thought, mate, this was the spot. This was the get right spot for this group. And I know Trey was probably shouldn't have been out there. Trey looked bad from the jump. He looked like he was hurt coming in, and he decided to try and play because he understands what this group looks like when he's not on the field. So even him at 40%, I think is more valuable than having a guy like Miles Murphy out there, it seems like. And it's not even that group entirely. Like if you go position by position, I mean Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter were atrocious. DJ Turner had a letdown game. Dax Hill had probably one of his worst games of the season. Geno Stone is Geno Stone, and Jordan Battle, I mean, my good, they looked lost.
It's a shame for Barrett Carter because I actually thought he played a really good first half, and then the second half it just came apart for him. He
That's a rookie. That's what happens when you have a rookie
made a
playing.
great play on the fourth down early in the game. Barrett Carter. He had some good plays on the opening couple of series for the Jets, and then he just kind of threw it away in the second half. Demetrius Knight, he's just slow. Like
Um,
it's just the tackle angle on the 2 point conversion. What is he doing? Like it's bad.
Brees Hall has played what, 3 years in the NFL at this point, right? 3 years.
Mhm.
He's younger than Demetrius Knight.
Nice.
He's 24 years old. Demetrius Knight's 25. And listen, the conversation around Barrett Carter, I think the Bengals knew what they were getting into when they switched to Carter. This is kind of what they signed up for. They wanted more splash plays because Logan Wilson, although he wasn't missing tackles and missing assignments and missing gaps the way Barrett Carter was in the second half, he didn't really provide a spark for this defense. He wasn't coming up with those splash plays. And Barrett Carter had a couple splash plays in the first half, but then in the second half, when it mattered most, um, he just straight up missed, and that's not what you got from Logan Wilson. And so that's what the Bengals signed up for. And the thing is, I don't know, it doesn't get better because this front office has taken a macro approach to this defense, and they
They got a
were
macro
hoping
approach to the whole team.
yeah, and in a season where, like last year, they wasted a MVP season from Joe Burrow. They just did. This year, it seems like the way that we're going, they are going to be wasting what should have been the probably last year of Joe Flacco, kind of riding off into the sunset with a potential playoff berth on the line. It's what, seven? How many straight games giving up 24 points? Is that
Oh
like
man. Since week one.
one, two, three, four, five,
Week one, they
six?
gave up to a Browns offense
Yep.
led by the quarterback that they have right now, who, has just no talent whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
Judkins didn't play in that game. I wonder what would have happened if Judkins had played in that game because I bet you the Browns run for a whole lot more yards, right? And this is where I really want to take this conversation because I know that a lot of Bengals fans are feeling very strongly today, as they very well should, right? Zach Taylor, what are we doing on second down and 10 on the 45-yard line, calling a halfback draw with 40 seconds left? I don't, and whatever, right? And you could gripe about Zach all you want, right? And trust me, I'm gonna say a point that I said all the way back in like week two, and I said it in the offseason too. Zach Taylor gets a lot of blame, and he should. He gets too much. And I know that's crazy, and this is not me defending Zach Taylor. Don't confuse it for that. Duke Tobin does not get enough blame for where this team is at right now. Zach Taylor can't go out on the field, put the green dot on his helmet, and play linebacker. Neither can Duke Tobin, to be fair. But Duke Tobin's the one who has the final calls on making these draft picks. Duke Tobin's the guy who makes the calls on personnel. Duke Tobin's the one who's in February and March as you're tabulating free agents. You saw this defense be historically bad for 12 plus weeks last year, and you said, let's add a run stopping DT who the Packers didn't want back. That'll fix it. And let's draft a project defensive end and a 25-year-old linebacker, and they'll just plug and play and fix all our issues. Spoiler alert, they didn't. In fact, it's worse. This defense is statistically one of the worst defenses in the NFL through 7 weeks over the last 25 NFL seasons. It's the fifth worst in that span. You know how many defenses do 32 times 25? And No mathematician here. That's a big number. The Bengals are in the bottom five of that number. It's embarrassing. And the worst part about it is you saw what happened last year. You stared it in the face. Aiden just said it. You had a great, amazing Joe Burrow season where he was fully healthy and he played at the top of his ability. You had Jamar Chase win the triple damn crown. He led the league in every statistical category for a wide receiver, right? Chase Brown had his best year as a pro. You had an offense that was phenomenal in every capacity, and the reason you didn't make the playoffs was what? Remind me? Oh yeah, it was because your defense was rookie level, was would get gashed by Alabama and Ohio State bad. And they stared at that and they said, okay, well, Lou Anarumo, he wasn't the answer. Okay, whatever, that's fine.
Lou's
And
the biggest winner in all this.
yeah, definitely don't look at what the Indianapolis Colts are doing. Don't look at
He's
that.
he's sitting back and like, I told you guys. What did you want me
Yep.
to do with this group?
Yep. And again, the Colts are 7-1. And look, their offense is more of a reason than that for their defense, but their defense is playing fine, right? And Al Golden comes in. The Bengals didn't even try and look anywhere else. They just decided, yeah, he was in our building a couple years ago. We'll bring him in, right? And I said I was okay with the Al Golden hire, but I did say that I wasn't okay with the process of Al Golden's hire, right? Look, I say the same thing for Al Golden that I say for Zach Taylor. You can only do so much with the guys that they have on the field right now. Is Al Golden the answer? Probably not. But is like I don't know if you could put Bill Belichick at defensive coordinator. I don't know if he'd have the answers right now. Like,
Yeah, I think the rationale from the front office of why they hired Al is that he has showed signs in the past of being a good talent developer, which is fine. But I think that they wanted this talent development to happen at the snap of his fingers. I mean, these are guys, like you mentioned, they're projects. They take time. And when you have Joe Burrow and you have all these weapons and you have these guys, it can't take time. We got to go now. And it's like, oh, maybe next year they might improve. Or like that's kind of the situation we're in. And the most concerning part for me, aside from the fact that I just don't think it gets better because I just don't think that they have the players to do it, in high leverage situations, these guys look lost. There's not a
mm,
single leader on this defense that's stepping up in a moment where they need to bow up and get a stop, and no guys know who to turn to. Over the last 4 games, the Bengals defense stepped on the field for a drive that started in the fourth quarter and the game within 2 possessions. So we're not counting kneel downs and Hail Marys. Here are the results of those
this is
drives:
going to be ugly.
6 touchdowns, 1 field goal, 2 punts. Those are that have to have it, have to get a stop moments. And they've gone what? What is that? 2 for 9 in those moments.
That's
It,
not a good percentage.
Look at the Bengals captains this offseason on defense. Who are they? They're Trey Hendrickson, they're Logan Wilson, and they're BJ Hill. It feels like they just picked the old guys in the room because they didn't know who to pick. I mean, Trey was requesting a trade in the offseason. He wanted off the team. He's a captain. Logan
Another one of
Wilson
them
is
just requested
bench.
one.
Logan Wilson's bench had also requested a trade. And BJ Hill has been a non-factor on this team.
And they just paid him $30 million too.
It's insane. They just they don't have the pieces. They just don't.
No.
And that's an indictment of this front office and their inability to draft and identify talent.
And
It
guess what? Mike Brown and Bill Tobin were best buds, and now his son is untouchable. And I just don't see a world where Duke Tobin ever leaves, not of his own accord. And the Bengals are doomed as long as that's the case because the Bengals, again, small scouting department in the league. It's about 2, 3 people, right? Embarrassing. They continually burn high level draft picks, right? We haven't even discussed the aberration that is Miles Murphy. I mean, this is guy you took at the 27th overall pick. Brian Bresee and Nolan Smith were both right there, right? Both of those guys are playing key roles on defensive line. The Saints aren't that good, but Bresee's a bright spot. And then Nolan Smith has won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. And they took a guy who was a project defensive end, and he has 2 sacks in 3 years. Then in your infinite wisdom, you come back in 2025 after, you have a good first round pick, in my
and
opinion,
do
and
the
Marius Mims,
same
you do the
thing.
same damn thing. I,
So sorry,
in
not to
fact,
interrupt
even
you.
worse, like Shamar needed more development. And look, again, I still think that Shamar has the athletic traits that, look, if Shamar leaves the Bengals, I wouldn't be shocked if he goes somewhere, does develop, and becomes a good player. But I just have no faith in this team to develop Shamar into the player he needs. When you look, you want to go through, you want to have some real fun here. Let's go back to 2020 and let's just go through the first and second round picks that the Bengals have made over the last 5 years. 2020, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, check, check, right? Can't miss on either of those. Two good picks. Clap, clap,
Can't mess
right?
that one up.
Right? 2021, Jamar Chase falls right into their lap. Thank you, Atlanta. Thank you, San Francisco. Check, right? They do that. Then this pick cost them a Super Bowl. They take Jackson Carman in 2021 when Sam Cosmi was on the board, when Creed Humphrey was on the board. A number of other O linemen who are playing good football for other teams were on the board, and Jackson Carman's out of the league in 4 years. 2022, their first round pick is Dax Hill. I'm not going to give them a check, but I'm also not going to give them an X. I feel like that's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? And then their second round pick in 2022 was, I'm kind of blanking on it a little bit.
I
I gotta think about it. If I have to think about it for too long, it's probably not very good. So, it's Cam Taylor Britt,
Yep, CTB.
who they traded up for, by the way, in that
Who
draft,
was benched last week and
who
then
was
in the lineup
benched.
this week and looked awful.
Was terrible. Had multiple illegal touching penalties this week. Just I don't know. Play him at linebacker. Honestly, he looks better when he's up near the box. That's all I'll say about him. Um, 2023 first round pick Murphy. I'm already giving it an X. I don't care. I'm done with him. DJ Turner, I will give a very slight check to. I think you're seeing a lot of flashes this year. He's great in his moments. 2024, Marius Mims, I'll also give that same tentative check to. He played pretty well on Sunday, I thought. He's had a good couple of weeks. Did a good job with TJ Watt last week. Did a good job this week as well. So he'll get a check. And then in the second round in 2024, this pick wasn't good, if I remember correctly.
It wasn't Jenkins, was it?
Oh no, yeah, it was Chris Jenkins. Yeah, we were there. We saw this
Who's
pick live. I don't know
been
what you're talking about. Jenkins is, I don't know. He doesn't even show up anymore. Like you don't hear
he's
about
supposed
this
to be
guy.
more he's supposed to be more of like a pass rush interior guy, and he just hasn't been.
And then
And
last year,
listen, and I'll put it like this, Ethan, because again, I came loaded today with
hmm,
stuff that just infuriated me over these past 48 hours. Before Duke Tobin was hired in 1999, it was Mike Brown who was the player personnel GM guy, kind of almost the Jerry Jones role in a way, in charge starting in 1991. Before Mike, it was Paul Brown from 1968 to 1990.
the
So
Boys and Girls Club.
so any notion that Duke is going to be canned, I mean, forget about it. I think he is the issue, obviously. It's just not going to happen.
Duke's not even the Bengals, I think, are one of maybe two teams in the NFL that don't have accredited GM in their
Yep.
organization. That's Duke Tobin's job is to be the GM, right? By not by title, but by proxy. Again, the scouting department is three people, right? You go on Twitter, right? And there's always these big college football games, and you'll always see like Ohio State versus Michigan, for example. You'll see scouts attending this game, Baltimore, Buffalo, Carolina, every team in the NFL, and you'll notice one team's always not on that list, right? It's because the Bengals don't have the scouts or the care to send people to these games. My biggest gripe is that I feel like the Bengals feel like they're smarter than everybody else when they're not. Like they think that they do things in this intelligent way. They treat themselves like the Reds do in baseball. They consider themselves like this small market team in the NFL. There's no such thing because you have a salary cap, right? And you have they think they could do things like Moneyball, and it almost worked a couple of years ago, right? They got some great luck. They had a fantastic defense with great players, and they had Joe Burrow play really well post ACL tear. And they were a couple plays away from winning a Super Bowl. We were all there. We were all thrilled, right? And the Bengals rewarded Zach Taylor with a contract extension, which was at the time pretty deserved. The next year was also pretty good as well. But since 2023, they have continually let good defensive players walk. They have tried to replace those players not via free agency, but via the draft, and they have burned picks. And this is the result. This is
Yeah.
the result. This is what they've gotten because of that, right? Their drafting has been just not even like just bad. Like it's been below the floor bad. You look at day three. I'm not even going to go through the picks because we don't have the time. But can you name me one or two day three picks the Bengals had contribute? Chase Brown, I will
Chase
give you
Brown.
that, right? Aside from him, last few years, day three picks, have they had any of them contribute meaningfully? Look at again, I point at them all the time because they're the standard in the AFC, right? But the Kansas City Chiefs continually draft well into day three, and they get contributors. Trey Smith, day fourth round pick out of Tennessee. Or no, I think it was even later. I think it was a sixth round pick. There were medical issues, right? And lo and behold, shock, he's a fantastic all pro level football player,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Humphrey was a third round pick.
Mhm. No, it's. I mean, yeah, that's the macro, but the
You don't even
micro of
have to
it,
be the Chiefs.
right?
You just have
No,
to make a couple of them. You
you
just
just
have to get a
have to
couple of them right.
you have to land on a couple, and I'm right there with you. That's the macro. So it's like I don't know how it gets better. The micro is what we saw on Sunday, obviously 39-38. I have a quick trivia for you. So the
Please.
Jets, as a team, they went over 500 yards of total offense on Sunday. Do you know when the last time the Jets as a franchise went over 500 yards of total offense?
It's rough, some rough years for the Jets. Hmm. I'm guessing it would have had to have been like
I can't wait to tell you this.
it's got to be in like the
I
2010s.
can guarantee you it's a game you watched.
Oh, I know exactly what game it was. It was Magic Mike White
It was the
against the
Mike
Bengals
White
in
game
2021.
against the Cincinnati Bengals in Paul Brown Stadium. That's the last time that they've had 500 total yards of offense as a team.
Here's a good stat right off the Twitter. This is actually very great correlation to what we were just talking about from Gridiron Grading on Twitter. Since 2022, the Bengals have spent 10 top 100 picks on defense. That's tied for the most in the NFL with the Eagles and the Cardinals over that span. They currently rank dead last in yards allowed per game and tied for last in EPA allowed per game. It's drafts. It's draft decisions. And this is why, and I'm going to bang the table until it happens. Duke Tobin should not have a job. It won't change, but he should not have a job. On 31 NFL franchises that are not named Cincinnati, he is gone probably last year. And instead, we're back, right? You think, like, I'm going to be honest. I think Zach Taylor is gone at the end of the season, regardless of what happens here. Is Zach Taylor a problem? Yes, there are issues that he causes, right? Is he the biggest problem? No. I will say that very loudly and I will happily say it. He is not the biggest issue. And I'm not saying that she should keep his job. I am saying that he is not the only one that should be fired, right? I think that you have an inexcusable talent identification problem. And it's the reason why this team isn't competing for postseason positions. It's the reason why this team isn't in the Super Bowl conversation anymore. Because look, you have the hardest thing. The hardest thing in this league to find is a franchise quarterback, and they just so happen to stumble into one, right? And they've killed him multiple times. And they haven't built any sort of complements for the team around him on the other side of the football to give him help.
Yeah.
Also, this is an aside. Get Andre Oswas out of the wide receiver three position. Get him out. I don't even
We
care
can,
if you
we
have to
can
get
go
Burt.
there. I'm
I don't
down
even
to go
care if you
there.
have to get Burton active again. He can't be worse. Surely, I don't
So
care
yeah,
if he what he's
back
doing.
back to
He's
back to the
a good
previous
shot.
conversation. Back to the previous conversation, right? Of
Please go ahead.
who on this Jets team can beat you, and it's Brees Hall. And
So
Brees Hall decided to go nuclear, and Al Golden and this defense decided to do nothing about it. On the flip side of things, if you're the Jets coming into this game, who can beat you? It's Jamar Chase, it's T. Higgins. What did Jamar Chase say after the game on high leverage, crucial moments, especially that final drive of the game? He said they were doubling me and they were doubling T. They said, please, someone else beat us. And what does that mean? That means someone else has to win. Someone else has to win because they have one-on-one coverage. And Andre Yoshivas just didn't win.
Well, I'm
Um,
betting two up. He had two drops, two key drops.
yep.
First
And
one, first one was a decent play by the
the
corner.
ball
The
was
second one
behind
he
them.
should catch.
The ball was
Uh,
behind him. I don't think Flacco. I haven't really watched Joe Flacco ball enough to really know, but it seemed like after he came back out of the tunnel, like he didn't really have it. Like his ball didn't have the
yeah, I don't know what
significance
happened.
that it
It
had. It
seemed
was
like
his
they said
throwing
shoulder
shoulder.
injury. I
Yeah,
don't
it was
really
his
know.
throwing shoulder, and so that ball over the middle was a little bit behind him. But then again, like if he catches that clean with his hands instead of trying to hit it into his body,
They're in
maybe
field
he
goal
comes down
range
with it.
right there. You give
Um,
Evan a shot.
Right. But it's just somebody else has to win. And nobody could win. I mean, on the day, Jamar had 19 targets. T only had two. I would really like to see those numbers go up. But then a lot of it was just under center play action bootleg leak stuff, which worked really well. Like Noah Fant had three catches for 41
Yeah, again,
yards.
I don't really have
Um,
much to gripe about with the offense aside from those little nitpicky
yeah.
things, right?
And they ran the
It's
ball extremely well. I mean,
They
Devontae
did. Probably the
Ingram
best
had
they
9
have all
for
year.
93.
Yeah.
Chase Brown 12 for 73. And you see how much better this offense gets when you can be multiple, when you can have these kinds of looks and you can call a pass play with a check to a run and you can still get 5 yards. And that's why like would I personally ever run the football in that situation in that 2 minute drill? No. I would never do that.
It was
But
like it was a drive in the third quarter.
I
Like
would do that. I would do that maybe on first down, but then again, you got to make sure you get 7 to 8 yards, and they got nothing on that play, and so it
they
blows up.
just it was so like there was no urgency on that drive whatsoever. It was like the Bengals were almost treating it like they just had a God-given right to get into field goal range, right? And I get Evan McPherson's had a great year, but like they didn't even give him a shot, right? They didn't even give Evan McPherson a chance. So, I just don't I don't know what the mindset was. That's just I think Zach Taylor's a bad situational head coach in those spots. It's one of my biggest gripes with him. Like he just doesn't understand like how to call those moments late. I don't know.
No,
You're gonna go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
I just I agree completely.
Yeah. I'm gonna read you Justin Fields' stat from last week's 13-6 loss to the Carolina Panthers, who got blitzed 40 to was it 40 to 12 by the Bills
Our good
yesterday.
friend Andy Dalton turned it over 3 times.
Yeah, he did not have a good game. But this is Justin Fields' stat line last week, and I get he left with an injury, but this is his stat line. 6 of 12 for 46 passing yards. Then he ran the ball 4 times for 22 yards. Tyrod Taylor came in, was 10 of 22, had 2 interceptions. And Tyrod Taylor was out. He didn't play. I don't know if things would have been much different because they
Not
would
that
have
work.
still handed the ball off and ran the ball for almost 300 yards. So um, I don't really know who you could feasibly point the finger at and expect things to change from. That's what my biggest concern is right now. Is you could say, "Oh, Al Golden, you suck, you're terrible," and you fire him, and you probably bring in like I don't know somebody else that they've had on the staff over the last 5 years because they don't care enough to do any sort of external viewing. Or maybe they try to bring Lou back, right? Because that's again.
He's never coming back. He
No,
got kicked
and he
out the
doesn't.
door.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't.
He got
I've
ran out of the
like
building for something that just obviously was not his fault.
no, no. And look, was Lou part of the problem last year? I think so, partially, right? But what could Lou have feasibly done, right? And like again, I'm not necessarily blaming the Bengals for getting rid of Lou because that was like you had to do that with how the defense played last year. But like I just you look at the way that Lou Anarumo was able to bring that defense back during the Super Bowl years. You think about some of the best players on those teams, right? Trey Hendrickson obviously still around, but think about how big Jesse Bates was in that defense and what they do with him. Oh, they just let him stroll out of the building after a franchise tag. Yes, you had regressions, right? Logan Wilson was fantastic on those years. Pratt was the same, right? The linebackers were the strength of that defense, in my opinion. And now, you see where you're at, right? You had Chidobe Awuzie who dealt with injuries after those years. And, hell, you got good contributions out of Eli Apple. If that doesn't tell you things, that you're getting worse level play than what you had when you had Eli Apple as a starting cornerback, I, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
And the worst part
you
is the
know,
AFC North is still wide open.
it
Pittsburgh
is.
gets blown out
If
by
they
the
if the Bengals
Ravens.
had won yesterday, they would be a half a game back of the Pittsburgh
Yep.
Steelers.
The Ravens picked up a big win against the Bears.
Yeah,
They're very much, if
no
you look at their
Lamar.
schedule,
Yeah,
they might go on a run. And then the
they
Browns are the
will. They
Browns.
will go on a run.
So if you even, I don't want to entertain it, but maybe there are people out there that still think that there's a chance. It has to start with a win before the bye against the Bears to get to
Well, guess what? Caleb
4-5.
Williams has not played great football as of late. The Bears can't run the football, so guess what? 450 yards incoming next week for the Bears offense as they come into Paycor Stadium. I don't.
These next
You
two
want to you
have to
want to
be the
hear
run.
you want to hear an amazing stat. I couldn't. I was reading through this thing when you were doing one of your tangents, and I couldn't believe this. In the Zach Taylor era, coming off of a mini bye, so
Mhm.
you play Thursday night, you get those extra 4 or 5 days off. The Bengals are 0 and 10 coming off of a mini bye. You know how much of an indictment that is on a coaching staff for a team to be 0 and 10 coming in? Mini byes are supposed to be an advantage. They're supposed to be, oh, you get a couple extra days to work through things. You get a couple extra days to get guys right, right?
The funniest
0
part
and
is
10.
they're 0-10-1 in their last 11. They tied one
Oh,
time.
joy.
Yeah. So they haven't even won in their last
That
11.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. And now you got to win your next
Look,
two.
if I had to make calls, right? Obviously they play the Bears next week, then they go into a bye, then they play the Steelers, right? Even if they win those two games and they get to 5 and 5, like I just don't I don't see like I feel the person I feel the worst for is Joe Burrow, right? If they had won this game, I would be a lot more positive because we saw him without a boot this week, which is a big deal, right? To get him out of the boot, saw him throwing on the sideline a little bit, right? He looks okay, right? Obviously, it's still a little bit of rehab to go, but like the whole conversation was if Flacco had them in any sort of position and Joe felt good enough to come back, you might as well give it a shot if you have a shot, right? Now, if you're in week 16 and you're 3 and 12, which I think they might well be, um, I, do you even bother? I don't. I don't bother. I know Joe's a competitor, and if he even feels like he wants to play, he will play, right? But you look at some of the phenomenal defensive talent in this upcoming NFL draft. There's some game changers on defense, right? Some guys that even this front office can't screw up. I'm looking at the safety at Ohio State, for example. Uh, You can't. You just if you're 3 and 12, you can't win games. I hate to say that, but you can't win games. You can't ruin draft stock. And
I
I'm so unbelievably frustrated that this is the conversation we're having on October, was it 25th or 27th? But this is where we're at. I don't have any confidence in this team getting any sort of major contributions out of their defense down the stretch. I don't have any sort of confidence in this team to win games against any team. They just lost to the worst team in football. I'm happy to say that. They lost to the Jets are not good. I'm not gonna, they played a great game. I'll happily say that. But they're not this is a team that lost 7 games in a row. That's Aaron Glenn's first win as a head coach. That team was down there, probably their two best players this weekend. And I not say I said this, we didn't have a jungle fever, but I told Aiden this. I said I don't like how this game looks. Even though I don't like, I should have been super confident, like every other Bengals fan was. I should have been like, oh, well, we're going to win this game by 20. And they should have, right? Um, but that didn't take into account the fact that this defense is playing at a high school level. So, they got the Bears on Sunday.
only two and a
Caleb
half point spread.
Williams, yep, they're home dogs to a team that just got the doors blown off them by a 1-win Baltimore. Um, I'm gonna go with 41 to 28 Chicago. I just don't see this like Caleb. This will be see now. You want to know what it is? You know how we talked about get right games? This Bengals defense is the get right game, right? I could see Caleb Williams having a little bit of his kind of come to the NFL moment, right? Um, I just don't see this to be the defense being able to slow down DeAndre Swift. Um, Nick Saban had a great expression for it. He was doing a press conference and he was talking about some game that Alabama played, and he said it was like something through a tin can. I'm not going to use the word because we try to keep this podcast family friendly, but that's how this is going to look really all season. Can you imagine what Derrick Henry, even washed Derrick Henry, is going to do to this defense in a few weeks? Um, it's
Yeah,
so
I
bad.
think Ben Johnson is gonna have a field day.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like I don't even know who they're like if Rome Odunze led them in passing and receiving yards. Like they just like I'm gonna make a prediction. The Bears have over 550 yards of total offense. I'm gonna say it. I think it happens. And another step on the road to tank. Put Browning back in. Don't
well,
let
I
poor
think
Flacco get hurt.
I think that last drive showed you how much confidence that the Bengals coaching staff has in Jake Browning. I mean, it took like Joe Flacco ran out at the last second, like it was WWE, threw two
Yeah,
balls on his bad throwing shoulder, and they're like, "Yeah, Joe, please go in, not Jake, not Jake, not Jake." That's the level of confidence they have. Okay, well, I think it'll be a little bit closer. I don't think you win off of a loss that you just had. I think that's a loss that things are going to start spiraling. But I still think they can keep it somewhat competitive.
probably.
I'm gonna go because I just think they can score. I think they can score with them. I'm gonna go Bears 35, Bengals 31.
Okay.
That's
I
my
will
pick.
say here's the last thing we'll talk about before we wrap things up. How many losses in a row would it take Zach Taylor to get fired mid-season?
Oh, I don't think that's a thing with this
Even if
organization.
what if they lose all the games up until the second Baltimore game?
I
You have to at that point, right?
I've been a Bengals fan for 23 years. I
They've
just
never
don't.
fired a coach in season.
I think Zach has until the end of the year. I genuinely do. I I know that
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not
that's
disagreeing with you. I'm
not the
just
answer you want to hear. That's
I'm
just
not
probably the
disagreeing with
most
you at all.
realistic thing in
I
my
think you're
head.
right, unfortunately. So
Who da?
yeah. And then they'll probably hire Matt Rule. So, you know. Or maybe they'll bring Marvin back. I hear he's free.
Bring
So
Marvin back, man. At least
yeah.
Marvin would like give us some good stuff in a post game.
I don't know. I don't know if
That.
anybody can save this defense. That's the worst part. That's how I'll
No,
end this. I just don't know if there's anybody that can save it. So
SOS.
yeah. Well, we'll be back next week to recap a Bengals defense that's currently bottom of the league in almost every statistical category, probably getting gashed by Kyle Monongai. So
I wish the Cowboys and Bengals played this year. That game would be fun.
it'd
It'd
be
be 60 to
55 to
60.
51.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Cowboys would win, by the way. But yeah. So that'll wrap things up for this edition of the Jungle Fever podcast. Hopefully the
Get a win
Bengals
on Sunday.
keep it going next week, but we'll see how things go. Caleb Downs, just get ready to be miserable. We'll get you next week. This has been the Jungle Fever podcast.